So these were alcohol soaks of 60 milligrams of dried leaf material, and after allowing it to evaporate almost to completion, I added maybe half a milliliter or 1 milliliter of a 2% Ehrlich reagent solution. And this one, you can still see the salicylate crystals. This was the, I didn't make a video on it, but I posted a photo. It was the DMT salicylate. I was having a goo issue when trying to salt out the freebase. It would always turn into a goo, and the solution I had at the time was just experimenting with different salts, and one of them was salicylic acid, and it formed very pretty crystals. I think I still have it right here. Yeah, it formed some very nice crystals, salicylate crystals. And I just recently got around to testing them with the reagent just to have 100% confirmation. And here is the reagent color. It started off as a very light pink, and it slowly turned to a slightly darker shade of purple. Still fairly light though. And the reason it's fairly light is the crystals, it seems like there's a lot, but the weight of the salicylate is actually quite heavy. So let's say a traditional dose would be 40 milligrams. You would need, I think, around 100 or 120 milligrams of the salicylate to be equivalent to around 20 milligrams freebase. And the main reason I'm showing this is just because I did the soaks that I mentioned of the leaf material. So the three reddish purplish reagent colors here, they are from different psychotria leaves, and this one is from the chaliponga. I was actually surprised that this one didn't become a red or a purple color, since when I did it the first time with the leaf material intact, this became a very strong red color, and the others didn't. The one on the left is the viridis, which is the traditional psychotria, and these two are different psychotria species, and they also had a strong color reaction to the reagent. If anything, they're actually stronger than the viridis. Now the issue with using this as a semi-quantitative tool is, like in this case, the chaliponga in theory should have more content than the rest, but since this is a full spectrum extract, since I just did an alcohol soak, the other compounds or whatever else is in this plant may be interfering with the actual reaction, or maybe it's just a weak clone or something. I don't know for sure, but I am very happy with the results of the other two species. They were the first to actually show the reaction, and the viridis caught up eventually. And yeah, I'm going to take a back step on this idea of doing a I guess a color spectrum to try to do quantitative measurements. I think another possible way to do it very crude estimate is using some other acid to make a precipitate, similar to the Dragunov reagent, where it precipitates out red or brown crystals. That would be the idea that I'm looking for. This is a very nice color, nice and clean. And yeah, for the malic acid extract, I think I probably jumped the gun a bit. The original precipitates, they seem to be calcium hydroxide or calcium malate. Since I added hydrochloric acid here and I allowed it to evaporate, it's just a goo. It is possible this is the compound I'm looking for in the cactus, but so far no crystals formed, so I'm starting to doubt that the first precipitates are actually the compound I'm looking for. So in theory, it should still be in here. This was around 80 milliliters, and I boiled it down to around 30. Nothing crystallized out after it cooled, so I'll be reducing it further. In theory, based on a very old post in DMT Nexus, like I mentioned, this should work, but I guess it never goes as planned, and I'll probably need to do another extraction to start with a pure compound again, and I'll form the malate using the rest of my ethyl acetate, since I know that works, and I'll test the solubility through that. And here is my seer sucker. The time lapse is stopped at these 2 leaves, and this one was already coming out. I'm not sure if the time lapse caught it, but another sprout on the bottom came up fairly quickly, and the leaves are larger, so hopefully now that it's more established, it'll grow quicker so I can experiment with this again. This was a cutting that I made a while back. It was rooting in pure water, and I decided to just place it in the same pot. The new sprout is coming in, and hopefully it survives. And the main reason I'm showing an update on the seer sucker is I finally got around to getting the, I think it's called a vein plant, where you can see where it gets the name. It's the Fittonia or Fittosa. Let me see if there's a name here. Yeah, Fittonia. And I finally got around to finding it locally at a supermarket, and it was fairly cheap. And there were the different varieties. I have no clue which one is the best, but I just chose this one since it looks the nicest. I took a few small cuttings. You can see the different color here. I'm attempting to root this one and a green with a white vein as well. And in theory, they should have similar effects. The same tribe used them, but the documentation on their usage and the effects are very limited. This one actually has documented effects where the users have visions of eyeballs everywhere. I subconsciously, when I experimented with this, I was expecting that result, but I did have a strong effect with just 1 gram. So considering how strong it was with just 1 gram and Cappy, I actually do think there's a chance that this may be active on its own, which is a slightly higher dose. So in the future, I'll take cuttings with this, I'll dry them, and I'll probably start at 0.5 gram or 1 gram as well. They seem to be an easy plant. It should be faster growing. I lost my orchid, so later I'll be potting this up into its own planter. It'll be the same size as the seer sucker. And yeah, fairly excited. I got this, I think it was around a third of the price that it is online. So I'm fairly happy. It came around to around 10 reals, 10 reais. So that's approximately $2, give or take. Probably a little less since our currency is so weak. But yeah, really happy I got it for cheap. I considered getting a larger planter as well, but I don't really have much space, so I'll settle on this. And yeah, looking forward to experimenting with this and growing this out. It's a very attractive plant. And in the future, I'll also be doing the Ehrlich reagent on some dry material to see if there is a purple reaction color indicating there's an indole alkaloid. So these are the other psychotria. They are similar to the viridis. The viridis, however, is much slower growing. You can easily make out the viridis, there's less leaves and they're smaller. And these are much more robust in growth. They also have the quote-unquote candles. Their growth is nearly identical to the viridis. And this one as well. This one was also tested positive for the indoles. They also have the candles, where it's these small, I guess you could call them nodes, near the vein. This one's completely different. It's closer to wild coffee in appearance. Nervosa. And yeah, hopefully these are indeed active in the future. I do plan on doing an extraction, and I'll be very happy if they are indeed active. I do like the viridis, but they are very slow growing in my treatment of them. Maybe if I had a humidity dome, they would do much better. And this batch of viridis, they're doing a little bit better. They're larger and they're just a tad bit older than the other batch. I recently started taking care of them a bit more, and the new growth does show that they're happy now. I recently treated them with a tobacco water, and it pretty much is the only treatment that I had that actually worked to remove aphids, and the results were almost instantly. I fertilized them a little bit, and they also have a water reserve now, which they didn't before. And the chaliponga is also doing quite well. It's seemingly happy. There's some growth points, and strangely, like I mentioned, there was no red or purple reaction with the reagent.